it sure is nice to come home at the end of a long day and enjoy a podcast. But you know what makes the experience that much better? Relaxing with a few puffs of smoke from my McQueen pipe. At McQueenPipes.com, I was able to find the perfect smoking pipe to suit my nerdy, yet dignified sensibilities. I especially love that each pipe is designed and handcrafted by a true artisan, and that all of their pipes are inspired by fantasy books and movies like The Lord of the Rings. Being a bit of a hobbit myself, my pipe is called the Barrel Rider, but they've also got pipes for wizards, rangers, dragon riders, or even goblins. If pipe tobacco isn't your thing, no worries. McQueen Pipes has got you covered with attachments for vaping or even cannabis. Head on over to McQueenPipes.com and use the code BIOGRAPHERS at checkout to receive 15% off of your entire order. Go ahead, treat your nerdy heart to something you'll cherish and enjoy your podcast listening experience in style with a McQueen pipe. That's Mac like mac and cheese and Queen like the band. McQueenPipes.com and use the code BIOGRAPHERS at checkout for a 15% discount on your whole order. Cheers, everyone, and happy podcasting.
I do hope you can see me today from where you are.
Ich bin ein Really.
If I'm generally anything, I guess I'm generally miserable.
This modern world of science and invention is of particular interest to women.
The people, I would say, there is no patent. Would you patent the sun?
I regard myself as a soldier, though a soldier of peace.
Welcome to the Biographers.
Part-time job when I was young, in my teens and stuff with my family's PC that we all used, to just keep the thing running.
From not having pop-ups.
Like,
you remember pop-ups? What happened to those?
They're still around. People still get them. Like, it is still a problem.
Really?
But it's just shifted, and a lot of people have learned their lessons, but a lot of people have not. So, like, that's just a huge part of it, too. But, like, constantly having software running to monitor your virus potential or whatever, that taxes your operating system and your PCU. Like, all of these different things and little factors, and then, like, oh, you have to install the thing here and then run the thing here and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, man, things run so fast on Macs. Like, it's a treat, man.
I noticed that, like, it seems like the delineation is if you're like a tech person, you use Windows, and if you are a creative in any way, Mac tends to be the direction that most people go. Or it's like if you do photography or you do some sort of music or art or podcasting or whatever, those people tend to have MacBooks, whereas like my buddy who does like software programming prefers Windows.
Even then, though, that's changed over the past 10 or 15 years a lot. Where, like, you're always going to have your diehards go, like, but I get a lot more control of my Linux. And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, fine, go do Linux. I don't have time for that.
But for the layman, the Mac is the way to go, in your opinion.
And not even just layman. Like, I've been working in software for over 10 years now, and I know a ton of software engineers that use Macs. It's not just for the creatives anymore. So... I think it has been changing, and I think it's especially because so many people use Macs. Apple has had to go, all right, how do we respond? We can't just let it be that, like, oh yeah, well, we're good for creative things. Let the nerds have the PCs. Like, they've shifted that a lot to where there's a lot of good command modules now, and people also have to be designing things to work well on Macs because it's so popular. So even that has shifted too. So
True.
I'm just saying, I remember it was 2008 or 9, and I had saved up a ton of money, and I was going back to junior college and was like, I just can't do handwritten notes anymore. I gotta type on a laptop. Saved up, bought an Apple laptop, and it was just like, oh my God, I have so much time back. I don't have to treat it like a pet, like I did with a PC of like, well, I got to take it to the vet and I got to give it its medicine and blah, blah. It's just like, it just ran and it was fast and it did what I wanted it to do.
One thing that does make me sad is I like all of the Google stuff. I wish the Google computers were even somewhat good. Because like Docs, Drive, Photos, the fact that it's all in one thing is so awesome. I just wish they had their own platform that was good. But they don't. Like, I've heard their phones are okay.
I did a Google phone for a while, whatever it's called.
The Pixel.
Pixel, there we go. I was like, what the hell is it called? I did that for, I think I had it for like a year or two, and it wasn't bad. Like, I didn't hate it. It wasn't like, you know, cumbersome or anything. I got used to it, and I for the most part liked it. I did find it was not as like sharp in responsiveness as iPhones were. And then I also found that like the biggest thing was the convenience of text messaging, where I think they figured it out now, but at the time they didn't have data-based texting, right? So like on iPhones, the iMessage is through data. It's like through actual internet rather than sending it through a phone signal, which is what they were still doing. So I would take a beautiful high-resolution photo and send it to a friend, and it would come through all pixelated because it didn't use data to send the photo. Versus iPhone uses data, so it comes in sharp. Anyway.
Yeah.
Silly things. And again, I think they fixed that now, but...
Yeah, fair. But anyway, yeah, going back to the class yesterday, it's just... I had this one dude who came in, him and his brother sat there asking questions, being super attentive during the class, and then completely went and made something entirely different. And almost always... I'm a little frustrated by that, but those guys got me a sandwich, so I'm pretty easily bribed. Okay. They wanted to make, like, they're like, can we make a chef knife in this class? I was like, we have 5 hours, dude. Like, no. And he was like, but could we make something that's, like, close? I was like, we could make a chef knife-shaped object and with no handle and no... You want a pizza with nothing, you know, but it's not going to be... But we ended up doing it, and, you know, there's 2 types of students that I found, which is, like, the ones who, like, I don't want you to touch my stuff. I want to make it 100% perfect. Don't look at me while I'm working on it. And I'm like, cool. And then there's the ones who are like, I secretly am begging for you to make the knife for me. And I have to, like, it's very hard because they both talk and act the same, and I have to find which one's which. And I think that's like half of the skill of teaching is like, which one of you wants to come home with something awesome, and which one of you wants to, like, just learn. Yeah. And that's it. So,
I mean, honestly, I would say start to take up the courage to where if somebody ever does that of being like, can we make a chef's knife? Say no. And if they go,
I mean, I did end up pushing him out of the way.
Why can't we do it? Say, because you didn't pay for a chef's knife class. You're not paying me to teach you how to make a chef's knife.
Yeah.
Like, that's the truth of it,
and
too.
that's what I told him, too. Is like, and he was extremely nice, dude. I genuinely liked his company. But that's what I told him, too. I was like, the issue isn't that it actually bothers me. It's that once you get off the rubric, I'm not sure if I can help you because we're not making the thing that I was planning on teaching you to make. If you have your own idea in your head, I don't have that idea, so I don't know which steps to take in order to get you there. Right?
Yeah. And again, I feel like you get what you pay for. And if you show up to a, like, you know, basic camp knife class and they're like, can we make a chef's knife? Be like, no, you can sign up for the chef's knife class and pay me to teach you how to make a chef's knife, but that's not what we're doing today.
100% agree. Although attitude is like the number one deciding factor, because I've had dudes who've done that and I'm like, no. And then like this guy yesterday, super history nerd, super kind, sweet guy. We went out and got sandwiches after. I was like, dude, do whatever you want. Like it just depends on whether or not they're a mensch.
That's
you
fair.
know?
That's fair. Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Biographers. I'm Daniel Newman, hanging out with Akiva Miola, as you already know.
Hey y'all.
And as you already know by clicking onto the episode, this is another slightly more relaxed version of Office Hours. Hope you guys all, I know, hope you all enjoyed the interview with Professor Fishkin week before last. It was, I mean, for me personally, and I've been surprised to find, oh man, should we even talk about this? So where I was going with this was, I've been surprised to find when I talk to people that don't care about Ken Burns documentaries, first of all, which shocks me because Ken Burns is one of my favorite, like, filmmaker anythings ever.
Totally. He's
just amazing. But the amount of people that I've kind of said stuff to, and they're just like, oh yeah, I don't really watch Ken Burns documentaries. What should I watch? And I'm like, what? Any of them. They're all good. They'll all make you happy. Like, I don't know what to say. But knowing that she was in Ken Burns' Mark Twain documentary series was insane. But we were talking to I'm gonna keep names out of it, another author who who did some work on another character that we covered, and he was kind of saying to us like, you know, oh, you should have interviewed me because I'm a total expert on this person, and you know, I helped make this show miniseries all about this person in conjunction with this one production company. And we looked into it, and Akeem and I were texting back and forth, cracking up because,
dude, should we burn it? I kind of want to burn it.
The interview.
Yeah, I kind of want to burn it just because, like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about like our credibility.
I mean, look.
Okay. We'll keep it anonymous. But continue. Yes.
Okay. So what I'll say is, everybody, is that this author was involved with Ancient Aliens. He's been in 3 episodes of the show Ancient Aliens, which, if you guys know,
and like the book, and the book that one of us, I won't say who, read, was very well written and
is
would
considered
not in
very
any way
well respected. It's hugely
not
respected.
in any way indicate that it was bad. But I will say, after I found out that this author had worked with Ancient Aliens, I wanted to scour that season to see what happened that I just let it slide. Was there any time that we talked about aliens that was like, you know, like, I don't know.
I think more than anything, Ancient Aliens is one of those shows that's like, it's, I think people that have a lot of wishful thinking, and it becomes silly as a result, right? Where, you know, there's that meme of the guy with the crazy hair and he's holding up his hands and it just says aliens, and it looks like he's high. Like, that's his explanation for everything that he doesn't know, where he's like, pyramids, man, pyramids were crazy. Like the construction of how they were built, we still don't fully understand. My thought is aliens. Like, that's the whole thesis of the show. And I get it. I want aliens to be real. I think that'd be cool, but I just don't. I think the meme,
like, we
of
can't
the
jump
show,
to that conclusion until every other conclusion is explored. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And
because there's a lot of assumptions you got to make in order for aliens to be real, dude. Like,
yes. And so for look, it's fun, and I'm not trying to hate on Ancient Aliens, but it is silly. It's a silly show. And I think anybody out there who's seen the show knows what we're talking about and being like, yeah, it is silly. It's fun sometimes, but it's silly. And this author had been on it 3 times and was saying, you should also interview me because I'm an expert on this thing. Now, that all being said, I think that just because some people come to these alien conclusions doesn't mean that they're not intelligent people or that they're not well-read or well-researched. And I think that's the case with this author. I think he's very well-read. I think he's very well-researched. And I think the book that he wrote on this one particular person is
pretty bulletproof.
Pretty damn good. And like, and this is a segue into the next thing that we'll talk about here.
Yes.
Cat's out of the bag. I think our audience is small enough to where at this point it just doesn't really matter. We can talk about it too. We are going to be working with a gentleman by the name of Max Miller, who runs a YouTube channel called Tasting History. We're very, very excited. It's February 20, what is it? 1st?
7th?
Something like that. I'll have to look
I
at
want to say 27th.
We have it on the calendar. I should just look. But later in February, we're doing a little combo video with him. He's going to give us a little shout out. We helped him do some research on stuff. We're hoping that it'll be the first of, who knows, several, many, whatever kind of a thing.
I mean, hell, even if this is just a one-off thing, I am pumped.
Hell yeah. And we're going to do an interview episode with him as well. It'll be a bonus episode released on like a Tuesday. So everybody, you have that to look forward to. We're going to be chatting with Max Miller during one of our episodes here. And kind of part of this was that we were looking up research for this episode with Max Miller. And we discovered, where I'm going with this, was that this guy who we're talking about had gone to the Smithsonian Museum and actually read through archival letters that this
pertain to the character,
particular character had written. So again, this is all just to say,
a good researcher. I also, to give him one more fair shot too, the History Channel does have a tendency of finding genuine historians and then interviewing them and then chopping up that interview for its most exciting bits and pieces, facts lay as they may.
Yes.
And I think there's a pipeline there between I've written a very good book and I've researched a good book, and then someone saying, hey, do you want to be on a TV show? And then you say, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you go, and then they're like, and according to this guy, aliens built the pyramids. And you're like, well, that's not exactly what I said.
Yes. I also think the History Channel,
rest in peace, History Channel, bro. It used to be so good.
It did. And
What
now
happened?
they're doing well, I can't say my favorite because my favorite is actually The Secret of the Skinwalker Ranch. Legitimately, there are some things they find there that are like, oh, what? That's wild. But
No.
if you watch it, I'm telling you, dude, like it's not bad. But anyway, the one that I initially was very interested in, but after like 10 seasons, I'm like, guys, give it up. The Curse of Oak Island. Have you seen it?
I remember The Curse of Oak. Okay, so my mom was a History Channel mom through and through. Whether it was those guys, Ghost Hunters with Zach Baggins, whether it was Deadliest Catch. Oh, no, that's Discovery, but kind of the same vibe. The same energy, right? Somebody who watches those shows. Like she watched, for some reason, all of the dad shows that like your dad would watch on the Lazy Boy. My mom was the one who was watching them. And I remember like after we would watch Ghost Adventures, there would be an ad for Oak Island, and I was like, "What's going on in Oak Island?" And
absolutely nothing is going on in Oak Island. I can tell you now.
I guess not there,
dude. Honestly, like it's not. Give it up. Like, because the thing that keeps them going is that they keep finding these just like little scraps of evidence here or there that are like, oh yeah, well, we found this little doubloon from 1670, so that means there's probably treasure here, and then. The funniest part is, if you've ever seen the show, it's these two brothers, okay, one of whom is clearly the failed child of the family.
That is so harsh, dude.
He is, though. You can just feel it. Like, he has nothing going on, and he's obsessed with this Oak Island thing, and the whole show is this thing of him...
Like, Mom, I'm going to move out as soon as I find the treasure. Okay, I'm here to take care of you and Dad. And they're like, we're 45. You can leave.
that guy's brother
just snorted. That's awesome.
Full on owns a vineyard and is rolling in cash. And the younger brother, I think he's the younger brother, is constantly being like, if we could just dig one more pit, because I'm pretty sure this is where the treasure is. And his brother's like, okay, we got into this whole thing to spend more time together. Like, that's the whole, literally the whole show is like this sort of failed brother.
Like, when I have my treasure, they're real. Who are they gonna like more, Derek or me?
Right. When we find it, I'll be the one having the last laugh. And it's like, no, you won't, because you are in so much debt to your brother now. He has literally dumped millions into this, to where if you found it, and even if you got 10 million back, your brother would be like, that's how much I put in. You've put in nothing. Like, I'm literally just recouping my losses with this money now.
It's also like Gator Hunters too. How is that history? It's happening right now.
Oh, I know.
And it's just a bunch of like people living in the bayou shooting reptiles. Like, I don't understand how that is relevant to the word history, except for the fact that technically it's in the past now. Like,
well, it reminds me too of, and I promise everybody we'll get into the actual office hours part of things. We actually do have a lot of stuff to cover today. I have a big list of things.
Do we?
Yeah, but I watched this episode of Grand Tour, which we've talked about many times on this show.
Yes.
And there's an episode where they go to Lusitania, or not Lusitania, it's the one where they go to Madagascar. That's the one. And it's specifically because they hear about this treasure that's supposedly buried there, this pirate treasure.
Yeah.
And one of the first things, I think it's either James May or Jeremy Clarkson who says it, who's like, the reason I think this is a stupid idea is because in the history of treasure hunters, literally nobody has ever found buried treasure. Ever. Once. At most, they have found the wreckage of a ship, and they've excavated actually the ship that's on the ocean floor and then pulled up valuables. That is the full extent of it. So,
but they've never found it on land, like X marks the spot.
Exactly. There has never been a single case of somebody being like, we heard there's treasure buried here from somebody's encrypted note or whatever, and then they hunt for it and then find buried treasure. It just doesn't, it's not there. So, like,
I want to believe, man.
I want to believe too, but
that's what History Channel's all about. It's all about belief. It's not about history or science or fact. It's about believing in yourself and believing that you can find the Curse of Oak Island.
Well, and honestly, last thing I'll say about Oak Island, one of the things that you watch the show and you go, I don't know if you guys know the irony of this. I really hope you do. But I swear to God, there were like 4 seasons devoted to this one, trench, tunnel, whatever pit they were digging.
Yes.
To try to find it. And the nickname they gave for it was the Money Pit. And I'm going, I really hope you guys know how ironic this is that you named it the Money Pit.
I hope that was the intent of the joke.
Right.
Because this is a money pit.
And quite, I hadn't watched it in years, and then I looked at like a synopsis or whatever of the most recent season, and it was like, yep, no, they've moved on to a totally new pit now.
Money pit number 2. Come on, bro.
Guys.
Slide me some cash.
Give it
Dude.
up, man. Anyways, so there we go. But anyhow, this is again just to say we're starting to get a little bit more in the groove when it comes to people wanting to reach out to us and say, let's talk about historic figures. And the one that's coming up next is Max Miller, and we're super stoked.
And listen.
You should
if that
listen.
author shows up, well, yes, you should listen. But I was going to say, if that author shows up that we just anonymously talked about, I don't want to hear any of it in the comments. He's not supposed to know that we feel this way. So zip your mouth. If you hear about somebody who is on the History Channel on our show, know where we stand. But don't spoil the surprise for him.
I'm also going to say, if that author that we're talking about does listen to this episode, buddy, we're not saying we don't think that you're legitimate in the book that you wrote, but come on.
History Channel, come on.
Ancient Aliens, come on. You had to have known that was going to bring you down a peg. In a little bit of academic respect. Come on,
yeah.
Come on, buddy.
Your book was so good. Why would you do that? Your book was so good.
Let's be real. Well, anyhow, let's get into some office hour stuff, because again, we do have a pretty big list of things to get into here, and I'm hoping that we can even get through it in the time that we have. So as you all kind of know, we usually will spend at least half the time inside of office hours just talking about questions we had along the way from the previous series, or illuminating on certain things, or adding in certain points that we left out. So getting into that here from Mark Twain. So first one here is from episode 1 of Mark Twain. Akiva, you mentioned not knowing how old the book The Last of the Mohicans was, because we talked about how Mark Twain read The Last of the Mohicans when he was a boy. It was initially published in, any guesses?
If he was a boy, 1780s, like I'm thinking Revolutionary Enlightenment times.
It was in the 1800s.
Okay. No idea.
1826.
Wow.
Which is
That's
amazing.
an old book.
Yeah, amazing to think about that, whatever it was, 170 years later, they made a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, that's true. That's so weird.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was just a kind of a neat little one there. Let's see here. Yes. I took this just as a general note. So this would have been in episode 5 of Mark Twain, but again, we have to cut out a lot of stuff just for the sake of time, even if they're cool history facts. So there was a point in 1867 when Mark Twain gave a speech at the Washington Newspaper Correspondence Club. And one person who attended, who would also at one point serve as the Vice President of the United States, he was a fella by the name of Schuyler Colfax, who said it was the best speech he had ever heard. So when he was at the club listening to Mark Twain give this speech, this guy Schuyler Colfax was like, best speech I ever heard. He later became vice president. Okay. Now I bring him up because if you're a Denver resident, your ears burned when you heard that word Colfax. Yes, indeedy. Colfax is named after Schuyler Colfax.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Look at that connection.
Which is pretty
I live
cool.
So close to Colfax right now.
I was going to say, you're just off the road there, I feel like. Three, 4, or 5 blocks, something like that.
The longest street in Colorado. One of the longest streets in the country, yeah.
I thought it was in the country, yeah, not even just Colorado.
It's like 50-something miles long. It's one of the only streets where you and a friend could live on the same road and they'd be an hour away.
Yeah, it's wild. So there you go, yeah. And it's also, if anybody out there is like a South Park fan, the guys on South Park have mentioned it many times. It's like, one of my favorite points is, I can't remember exactly what the context was, but Randy Marsh says something like, Sharon, what do you think I am? One of those whores down on Colfax? Which is relatively accurate.
So that's rough, man. Colfax is we're trying our best. We got some new mayors. It's gonna get better.
It's gotten better, dude. Even from the time that I
they've actually
moved
converted a bunch of like the motels into shelters, which I think is such a cool idea because those motels are not a looker, and this is a great way to solve some of the issues there.
Totally agree. Yeah.
But yeah.
No, they've been working on Colfax for a long time. I've been in Denver for about 15 years now. And when I first got here, it was definitely a little bit shady. Now it's definitely like, you can walk around. You can have a good
medium
time.
Shady.
Yeah. I would say like upper middle shady.
Upper middle shady. Yeah, it is upper middle shady. You'd have like a dude who's like drinking out of a plastic liquor bottle at a bus station right next to a very fancy banh mi shop that was on Food Network.
It's true.
So
yeah, and there's like boutique, same exact situation where it's like, oh, there's a person sleeping in a bus stop, and then it's literally in front of like a bougie dress boutique. You know?
Yes.
It's like buy our leggings kind of a thing. So. You know,
we're working on it. All right,
we are. Everybody in Colorado is nodding their heads. I know this. Okay, let's see here. Next up, in part 3 of Mark Twain, we mentioned that the original name of San Francisco was Yerba Buena, which means the good herb. And Akiva, I didn't even make the connection in the episode, but you had wondered if it had something to do with cannabis use in the area. Now, the answer is no. From what I can understand, yes. So obviously cannabis grew in the area, but really at the time, from what I read, it wasn't really known as a recreational drug. Or if it was on like a very, I would imagine Native Americans understood it and were like, we get it. Probably a couple of like, yokel backwoods white people knew it, but the population of white people at large in San Francisco really didn't know that it was a recreational drug. And more than anything else, it was sold in apothecaries as part of like tinctures and stuff like that.
Huh. You're like, this tincture makes me really want to watch Scooby-Doo right now.
This tincture makes me like real hungry, man.
Everything's so funny. I still have a fever though.
That's true. But I feel better from the fever. But anyway. So I did actually look into it, though. It was named Yerba Buena because there was a mint-like herb that apparently covered the entire area when people first kind of started to settle there. So quite literally, the entire area just smelled really, really nice, like almost minty in the air.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So Yerba Buena, the good herb. They're like, this stuff smells good. It's the end of it.
That's wild.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It's kind of like in the not like Kentucky area. There was a huge... Before strawberries became like the big strawberries that we see today, there used to be huge patches of strawberries all across the place. And there's like writings of horses just running through strawberry fields, and their hooves would end up getting stained red from just this huge rush of them.
It's kind of beautiful, honestly.
Right?
The idea of horses running through strawberry fields. It's like, oh,
yeah.
The
Beatles would have loved
that. Well done. All right, next up here, in part 4 of Mark Twain, Sam Clemens went to what was then called the Sandwich Islands, now called Hawaii. Now, we just had kind of like a handful of different questions about Hawaii in general. So in short, it was named the Sandwich Islands to honor the Captain James Cook patron. So James Cook, he was one that actually discovered, quote unquote, discovered, at least to European eyes. There were people there, so he didn't discover it, but, white people discovered it, so yay, we discovered it. Captain Cook was the one who, as a white guy, first found it. And one of the kind of benefactors and patrons of the voyage was a guy named John Montage. I think it's how it's pronounced, Montage. He was the 4th Earl of Sandwich. So he called it the Sandwich Islands.
There we go.
That's it. Which is where the name Sandwich comes from, by the way. I'm 99% sure.
This sovereign nation is brought to you by McDonald's. Like, it's just you just got a brand deal on a whole land.
I shall call this cheese and onion. So yeah, that's how the name kind of came to be. Now, in regards to the history of Hawaii, I am not going to go down that rabbit hole because it is long and complicated.
That's worth a season of its own. Yep.
Honestly, it is. So we're going to save that for another time, but just a few kind of key points to highlight that we were curious about. You had asked about the last queen of Hawaii, Liliuokalani. Mm-hmm. She was the last queen of Hawaii, and she reigned from 1891 to 1893. So it was a very, very short reign. Wow. You had also asked about King Kamehameha. He, the first anyways, because it was a long line of Kamehameha kings. Mm-hmm. So the first one, he reigned from 1795 to 1819. By the time that Mark Twain got to Hawaii, it was being ruled over by King Kamehameha V. So that was in like 1866, I want to say.
That's a lot of Kamehamehas to go through and not that much time, if you think about it.
Yeah, which I don't know the history of those rulers, if they died.
Maybe we
if they
should do one on
relinquished it.
Kamehameha or something. That would be sick.
I totally agree, and especially because they just did that Jason Momoa series.
Ooh, yeah.
All about King Kamehameha. I feel like, from what I understand, it is pretty historically accurate, but I'd also be willing to bet that just like every TV show and movie, anything,
you got to take liberties.
Always take liberties. So I think that would actually be a pretty fascinating one to do, to actually kind of get to the truth of it. So
yeah,
I think that would be kind of cool. So there you go. There was little tidbits about Hawaii and some of the rulers and stuff like that. And that was mostly what we were wondering in the episode. All right, so let's see what's next here. Oh, okay. So in part 4 of Mark Twain, we talked about Sam Clemens leaving San Francisco and going to New York, but we weren't quite sure when the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. So it was completed in 1869. That would have been 2 years after Mark Twain made the trip from San Francisco to New York. So it was not completed when he did that.
Ah, gotcha.
But
so
that
close.
but that being said, really all that meant was there was no single railroad line that went from the West Coast to the East Coast. There were
but he was probably hopping on portions of that intercontinental railroad
exactly
to get there.
There were,
Gotcha.
for lack of a better term, there were tributaries, right?
Yeah.
He could at least go from here to here and then probably take like less than a day carriage ride to get to another station and then go from here to Chicago, blah, blah, blah,
Gotcha.
blah. So like,
10-4.
yeah, he still was able to do that. And train travel in the U.S. was becoming way more popular by that point as well. So it was this definite combination of carriage rides and then also, or stagecoaches is probably a better way to say it, and then trains. So there you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Let's see here. Next up, Mark Twain Part 5. This is actually pretty interesting. I briefly mentioned a funny quote from Mark Twain, who asked for condoms from a friend who started manufacturing them. The quote, when he wrote to his friend, he said, "Please forward 12 odorless rubber condoms. I don't mind them being odorless. I can supply the odor myself."
That's disgusting.
It's so gross.
Vile, bro.
It is really gross, but also amazing. Now, we were kind of wondering about like general like condoms. Like where'd they come from?
Condoms?
Salute.
I saluted.
Where did they come from? What was the history of them? All that kind of stuff. So Mark Twain initially wrote this letter in 1868. And again, we kind of wondered when they were first invented. So I looked into this a little bit, and surprisingly, the history of the condom is kind of long. The first known mention of oh, come on.
There's one little neuron in my brain that got activated when you said that. The little peanut brain rattling around in my skull was like,
oh my gosh, childish, but it's my kind of humor. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Now, the first known mention of them appearing is as early as, believe it or not, any guesses here? First mention in writing of a condom?
Of a condom? Okay, I might be right about this. I want to say that there was this thing where Vikings might have had condoms and they used sheepskin. I've heard this floating around. I'm not sure if this is actually accurate. Is that right?
I was not able to see anything about that. And knowing how many different countries throughout Europe are like, yes, we have Viking heritage, I'm like, I don't think they were using condoms. Personally.
There's just one guy who was like cutting up goat intestines. He's like, guys, you gotta try it. And I'm like, dude, you're being gross right now.
Yeah, like we want to conquer these people, not
Like, what are you doing with that goat? Put that down.
But I don't, honestly, you could be right. I'm not 100% sure, but the earliest, at least in writing that we know about, was in 1564.
That's still pretty early.
Yeah. And apparently in the writing, it was talking about a methodology for preventing syphilis, like getting syphilis. And apparently they were made from linen, which sounds awful, dude.
Maybe it's like wax linen?
I hope something, because if you're just, I mean, you can't say it's raw dogging it, but it is sort of, it's raw dogging it. You know what I mean? With linen. That's not good.
I love how the capacity of our show changes so much. We went from talking to Stanford professors to raw dogging it with linen condoms. No. Shelley, if you're listening, I'm so sorry.
Fun. We make history fun. That is what we do. Now, that's again, so to move forward, though, in terms of like...
that's brutal.
It's really brutal and really gross. And I can't imagine that would have prevented syphilis, by the way. Like, if anything, it feels like it would create a sponge for syphilis. Like,
yeah, like anyway. A syphilis petri dish.
Yeah. But anyways, to what you were mentioning, the whole animal membrane condoms thing, the earliest known archaeological condom that we found made from animal membranes dates back to 1642.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, it could have also been one of those things that like people knew about it. It just was never written about, and you know they dissolved.
That's
over
a hard
time.
thing to sell, dude. That's a hard sell. Goat intestine condoms. That's not.
You say this, Akiva, but the earliest known condom shop that we know about opened in London in 1744.
Wow.
Age of Enlightenment. They were like, "All come to the condom shop." Like, ding, 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 ding. And people were like, "Oh, by Jove!" And like, I mean, because things like cholera and stuff was big back then. So, I guess cholera you wouldn't have gotten through STD. You would have gotten through dirty water. But you know, syphilis and all that kind of stuff. That was huge. A lot of people died from syphilis back in the day.
Yeah.
So,
by Jove, a condom shop.
Oh, that feels rather good there, chap.
There's a tailor.
I bet
What's your sizing, good sir?
I bet you, honestly, there was probably like a condom sizer, right? Because I can't imagine you just go in there and they'd be like, "Oh, here you go. Here's a stack of them." They'd be like, "Give me your dimensions." Like, they probably had like a hand job
last
made
week.
too.
I'm quite prepared for my time with my saucy young maiden.
Man, we were really at it today.
We fell hard.
Yeah. We were making fun of somebody for being on Ancient Aliens. Here we are making condom jokes.
You know what? I take it back.
Okay. Now, to finish up this thought, when Mark Twain made that quote, he was talking about the odorless rubber condoms, okay? So that came after the process of vulcanizing rubber was patented. That was patented in 1844. Any ideas who patented vulcanizing rubber, Akiva? This is a good history test for you.
Ooh. I should know this one. I just watched a whole video.
Even just the last name.
Is it Goodyear?
It is Goodyear.
Bingo!
Well
there we
done.
go.
Charles Goodyear was the guy who invented vulcanized rubber. And apparently it was a process of like combining rubber, which at high temperatures would melt. He mixed it, I want to say, with sulfur, and then dropped it into a pan, like a hot pan, and he found that it actually got more solid and harder when he heated it up. So that was how vulcanized rubber came to be. And then... So he patented that. I think he discovered it in like 1842 and then perfected it by 1844, patented it, and then by 1855, rubber condoms were being manufactured and sold.
Those first ones must have been built like a tank. Imagining tire treads.
Honestly,
not for anyone's pleasure.
There's the joke of like, you know, women saying like, "Is it in?" I feel like guys at this point would have been going, "Is it in?"
Is it? Like, I don't know.
With those condoms on.
Like, ouch. Okay, on a more serious and less stupid note, speaking of rubber, for any of the listeners, I want to recommend a fantastic YouTube channel of a woodworker called Rex Kruger. He's making this new series called The Hidden History of Wood, and he talks about the rubber trees and what a devastating impact the rubber production in the early parts of history were, because those trees, after they were extracted, were basically useless, and they would produce termites, so they had to burn all of the trees down. But nowadays, you can, most of the solid wood products that you buy from places like Amazon or sometimes Target or Walmart are actually this fantastic way that they manufacture the trees so that they wouldn't be wasted. Because back in the day, they would just, once the trees were done, they would rot almost instantly because they were in very humid climates. The wood was super punky, which means it's very soft. You can press it with your thumbnail.
Oh, wow.
And it would just go rotten. So they would just set them on fire, obviously burning rubber into the air, which is not great for the environment and completely wasting all of this timber. But there's this new process that, like, I want to say Indonesia or someplace spent millions of dollars investing in. And that's why, like, all of the solid surfaces that you buy from cheaper places are made with rubber wood.
Oh,
kind of interesting. Yeah, so Rex
cool.
Kruger, once again, check it out. Secret History of Wood. It's very cool.
You made the giggle joke where you're like, oh, the history of condoms is long. You said the secret history of wood. I'm like,
we just talked about the secret history of wood.
I'm sorry. You can all turn off the podcast now. I know.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, I promise we're going to have someone really cool show up next time. Max Miller. I swear we're awesome.
Okay. Well, let's move on before we make any more dick jokes.
Yes, I know. No one's going to want to show up on our show if we continue.
I know. Okay, so in Mark Twain Part 6, I told the story of Mary Ann Cord. Very, very famous story. It was her telling that very harrowing tale of, basically having her whole family sold in front of her at auction and, her being beaten as a result because she tried to fight them off, kind of a thing. It's harrowing. And she told this whole story to Mark Twain, and it became this foundational piece of his entire life. And he used it for tons of inspiration for Huckleberry Finn and a lot of his writing and thinking moving forward. Big story if you don't remember that.
Yeah.
And it's worth even you just finding that. It's, I want to say it's called...
A story word for word as I heard it or something?
A story repeated word for word as I heard it. I can try to find that.
Google will take you the rest of the way there.
It will, but it's the story of Mary Ann Cord. Anyways, the name of the actual article that he wrote is escaping me right now. But anyways... In that story, I mentioned that Mary Ann, she said this quote that triggered this memory for what eventually turned out to be her son, her long-lost son. She said, I was one of the old blue hen chickens. Now, I incorrectly said that came from Delaware. It was actually Maryland that came from. So apparently at the time, and maybe now still, I don't really know anybody from Maryland, you can tell me, people from Maryland proudly referred to themselves as blue hen chickens. I can't remember the exact reason why they did. It had something to do, I want to say with like soldier ranks or something like that. But anyways, it was like a nickname they gave to themselves. So she would say, Mary Ann Cord's mother said that to her when she was growing up. So she would say that to her kids, like, I was one of the old blue hen chickens. And that was what she said it to this group of soldiers. And one of the soldiers was like, wait, what? And it turned out to be her long lost son, Henry. So just wanted to clear that one up real quick. Maryland,
incredible,
not Delaware.
Huh.
Next up here in part 10, I mentioned a poem that Mark Twain wrote about his daughter Susie after she passed. He wrote it a year after she had passed. And I couldn't remember the name, or I didn't include the name of the poem in the actual episode. It is called In Memoriam, if you are curious. And I will ask you, Akiva, if you want. I have the full poem up here. It would probably take me about 2 or 3 minutes to read through the entire thing, if you're curious.
Let's bust through it.
Cool.
Everybody ready to be sad after our condom jokes? Okay, here we go.
Emotional roller coaster. So again, this was called In Memoriam. This was written by Mark Twain on August 18th, 1896. So it goes like this. In a fair valley, oh, how long ago, where all the broad expanse was clothed in vines, and fruitful fields and meadows starred the flowers, and clear streams wandered at their idle will, and still lakes slept, their burnished surfaces, a dream of painted clouds and soft airs, went whispering with odorous breath, and all was peace in that fair vale. Shut from the troubled world, a nameless hamlet drowsed. Hard by, apart, a temple stood, and strangers from the outer world passing noted it with tired eyes, and seeing, saw it not, a glimpse of its fair form, an answering momentary thrill, and they passed on, careless and unaware. They could not know the cunning of its make. They could not know the secret shut up in its heart. Only the dwellers of the hamlet knew. They knew that what seemed brass was gold, what marble seemed was ivory. The glories that enriched the milky surfaces, the trailing vines, the interwoven flowers, the tropic birds a wing, clothed in tinted fires. They knew for what they were, not what they seemed, encrustings all of gems, not perishable, splendorous of the brush. They knew the secret spot where one must stand. They knew the surest hour, the proper slant of sun, to gather in, unmarred, undimmed, the vision of the fane in all its fairy grace, a fainting dream against the opal sky. And more than this, they knew that in the temple's inmost place a spirit dwelt, made all of light. For glimpses of it they had caught, beyond the curtains, when the priests that served the altar came and went. All loved that light and held it dear, that had this partial grace. But the adoring priests alone, who lived by day and night, submerged in its immortal glow, knew all its power and depth, and could appraise the loss, if it should fade and fail and come no more. All this was long ago, so long ago. The light burned on, and they that worshipped it, and they that caught its flash at intervals and held it dear, contented, lived in its secure possession. Ah, how long ago it was! And then, when they were nothing fearing, and God's peace was in the air, and none was prophesying harm, the vast disaster fell. Where stood the temple when the sun went down was vacant desert when it rose again. Ah, yes, 'tis ages since it chanced. So long ago it was, that from the memory of the hamlet folk the light has passed, they scarce believing now that once it was, or if believing, yet not missing it, and reconciled to have it gone. Not so the priests, oh, not so, the stricken ones that served it day and night, adoring it, abiding in the healing of its peace, they stand yet where erst they stood, speechless in that dim morning long ago, and still they gaze, as then they gazed, and murmur, it will come again. It knows our pain, it knows, ah, surely it will come again. And then it's signed Samuel Langhorne Clemens. Oh. Very pretty, and also a testament to just how good of a writer Mark Twain was outside of, I mean, you think of even sometimes very, very silly things that he wrote, and then you hear a poem like that, and you're like, damn, the guy was just a master of words, in my opinion.
It reminds me of, it's not Grand Budapest Hotel, it's the one about the painter who's in prison. Come on.
The French Dispatch?
It's killing me. Yes! Maybe.
They had like...
Oh, God.
Honestly, I'm not up to speed on the most recent. I don't think I've seen any of Wes Anderson's movies since the Grand Budapest Hotel.
He's basically an abstract artist, and they're like, well, how do we know if it's any good? And they're like, well, ask him to, paint something real, and he perfectly draws a sparrow with a matchstick. And they go, he can make this, but he chooses to make this. And that's kind of what I think of with Mark Twain, where it's like, he could write like this all the time, but he chooses to write in the manner of Huck Finn.
Cool. Yeah,
but anyway.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's the slightly sad poem by Mark Twain about his daughter, Susie, who passed away. It was a year...
Absolutely stunning.
Anniversary after her passing. Okay, next up here. In part 10, we talked about Jewish people fighting in the Civil War, as in Mark Twain's essay concerning the Jews. He initially made the claim that the Jewish people didn't really fight as soldiers in the Civil War. But he then was given information to the contrary, and we talked about this in the episode, and he added to the article, and he wrote like a postscript to it, basically saying, I was totally wrong, and I didn't know this, right? So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to actually read a portion of that retraction about, Jewish people fighting in wars. So the postscript that he published, it was called Postscript: The Jew as a Soldier. Or probably not even Jew as a soldier. It's the Jew as Soldier. So in it, he said, this is just a portion. There is a couple more paragraphs that he wrote, but this I thought was the most poignant. So he said, this is a quote, "When I published the above article in Harper's Monthly, I was ignorant, like the rest of the Christian world, of the fact that the Jew had a record as a soldier. I have since seen the official statistics, and I find that he furnished soldiers and high officers to the Revolution, the War of 1812, and the Mexican War. In the Civil War, he was represented in the armies and navies of both the North and the South by 10% of his numerical strength, the same percentage that was furnished by the Christian populations of the two sections. This large fact means more than it seems to mean, for it means that the Jews' patriotism was not merely level with the Christians, but overpassed it. When the Christian volunteer arrived in camp, he got a welcome and applause. But as a rule, the Jew got a snub. His company was not desired, and he was made to feel it. That he nevertheless conquered his wounded pride and sacrificed both that and his blood for his flag raises the average and quality of his patriotism above the Christians. His record for capacity, for fidelity, and for gallant soldiership in the field is as good as anyone else's."
That'll make you emotional.
Pretty cool,
right,
right,
a Jewish kid. Yeah, they're like.
I thought you'd like that.
Not only did they show up, but they showed up despite not being wanted.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then that's
I respect that.
The whole point where he's like, "Yeah, dude, it was when Christians showed up, it was like, hey there, buddy, welcome, let's go fight." And then when Jewish people showed up, they were like, "Oh, great, you're here." And they were like,
"Yes,
fuck you. Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to fight. This is my country just as much as yours." Like, come on. That's applause worthy for sure.
I did get to pick up a book that I thought was really interesting, which was the Secret Jewish History of Denver or something along those lines. Cool. I picked it up. I can't remember what the author is. But a fact that I think we've talked about this during our discussion of Sam Clemens, but in the West, there was a huge surge of Jewish folks, mainly because there was so much economic opportunity. There was really generally a lack of awareness of what a Jewish person was, so prejudice was much lower there. That's how folks like Levi Strauss came to invest in, the denim industry. That's how a lot of mercantile stores during the gold rush happened, was Jewish folks basically avoiding persecution and moving out west so they can actually buy property. Because if you remember, most of these Jews were from Europe, and for a very long time, property ownership was not only hard but illegal. So the prospect of going to a country where you could just stake a plot of land and build a house there was really appetizing for Jewish folks that were from Europe.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And also, for anybody out there that's wondering, I did ask Akiva about this. I actually heard somebody on TikTok recently say the J word, as if
I don't understand that one.
Jew is like equivalent.
It's kind of like
to
what we
saying
talked
the N-word.
about. Yes.
And
it's kind of like what we talked about with Shelley Fisher-Fishkin, which is context is not everything, but it's close to everything. It's just like, if you're saying the word Jew in like some derogatory way, then it is derogatory. But if you're just saying like this person is a Jew, then I don't really see an issue. I typically say Jewish person.
Same.
But it at least to my eyes, it's one and the same. So if there are other Jewish people who disagree with me, I apologize for misguiding our Gentile friend Daniel here, but I am not offended. So
and I think I made this joke many episodes ago where I said hard J, and I think that is exactly what you're talking about, right? Where it's like you could say like, you can say Jew, and it's like, well, okay, if you can just as easily say Jewish person, I think that's probably a better way to go almost always.
Yeah.
But like You know what I mean?
When you say like the Jews, then that's a different
exactly.
thing, right?
And you say it in a way of, but honestly, even though it's like, if you said something like, well, it's like the Jews of Israel. Okay, I think that's fine, right?
Talking about a population.
Right.
Yes.
Versus accusatory. You know what I mean? I think that's the sort of the difference is like,
yes.
Whoa. How are we saying
Which is why
this?
we were laughing at Sam Clemens's thing, because it sounds accusatory regarding the Jews.
Concerning the Jews.
Like that sounds like something that you would, concerning the Jews. Like that sounds like something that you would hear in 1930s Germany.
Right.
But the context is completely different, which is, like I said, why context isn't everything, but it's close to everything when it comes to certain words.
Right. It's sort of like even now we're getting more to a point in most of society where people will say, oh, this is a black person. This is a white person. And there's not much, negatory implications to it. But if you get into the territory going, the blacks... I don't know. Now we're getting into a territory.
What are you about to say, bud?
Right, where you're like
my ears perk up, and I'm like, I'm about to kick someone's ass.
How are we saying this? And I think that's sort of like similar situation with saying Jew.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just. Yeah. But Akiva and I, who is obviously Jewish, Akiva, I asked. I was like, is this okay?
Is this a thing?
Yeah, and
as
he
far
was
as
like,
I'm concerned, it is not.
So, anyways, just want to clear that up for everybody. All right. Last technical fact correction thing is part 10, again, of Mark Twain. I mentioned that there was a graphic novel about Tesla trying to defeat Edison with the aid of Mark Twain, if you remember me saying that. Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't recall what it was, so I looked it up. For those that are curious, it is called, and this is a great fucking name for a graphic novel about this. It's called Five Fists of Science, which is awesome. It was originally published as a graphic novel in 2006. It's by Image Comics, and it was created by Matt Fraction and Steven Sanders. You can buy it if you're curious. I think I saw copies for even like $10 or something like that. So I feel like, Akiva, you got to pick one up.
I'm totally doing it.
It sounds super
by the way, while I was doing some research, maybe this will show up in another office hours. I didn't have them prepared. I did find in the Smithsonian Institute some letters between Tesla and Sam Clemens. I'm still trying to see if there are any digital copies available, but maybe we can find some letters between the two of them. Which
hell yeah. That would be awesome. I'd be super curious to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, one other thing that I want to talk about in this episode, and I think we have time. We might go a little bit over an hour for this episode of Office Hours, but this one is really, really cool. So I mentioned this to you a while ago. This was at like the very, very beginning of when we were doing Mark Twain. So we received an email on September 17th of last year, 2025, from one of our listeners named Jennifer Ames. And Jennifer, if you're listening, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. But she emailed us, and I got permission to read this out because I thought this was so fascinating. I basically said, hey, if we could read this in an episode of Office Hours, I'd really appreciate it. And Jennifer said, yes, absolutely. So this is with permission. So the email that we got says, hey, guys, I've been glued to your podcast about Pancho Villa and the Mexican Revolution and wanted to share these with you. And she sent over a couple of attachments that I'll talk about in a second. She said, my paternal grandfather was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, in October of 1906. So his childhood coincided with the Mexican Revolution. He left for the U.S. in November 1926 at the start of the Cristero War, which I'm not too familiar with. His family remained in Mexico. I've been conducting genealogy research on that side of my family, as little is known about his father. I have found that he had family members directly involved with both sides of the war, which I find fascinating. I find that fascinating too. His brother-in-law, Carlos Martinez del Campo, served in the Division del Norte, which was the actual army that Pancho Villa commanded. And I think at its height had like over 50,000 soldiers Pancho Villa commanded. So this Jen, her I guess it would be like her great-grandfather's uncle or great-great-uncle, something like that, actually served under Pancho Villa in the Division of the North.
That's so cool.
And apparently this guy also had his own brigada, Carlos Martinez del Campo, So it was like his own brigade that he led. He wasn't even just a foot soldier. He actually led an entire brigade.
That's incredible.
Which is amazing. She said, I'll see if I can attach a photo of him in his uniform, which she did, and I'm going to try to post it onto our website for those that are curious. It is very, very cool to see. It's this really awesome photo, and he's in his uniform. And then Jen goes on to say, my grandfather's uncle, his mother's brother, Jose Dolores Amescua, I think is how you pronounce it. Help me out, Akiva. Amescua? Amescua?
Amescua, yeah.
Okay. He was killed while serving the Constitutionalist Army, or Constitucionalistas, which is how we kind of talked about it, in Toluca in November of 1915 at the age of 30. And then she said, I will attach his death record too, which she did. So we actually have photos of the death certificate of this person who fought in the Constitutionalist Army. Jen then said, it leaves me wondering how this division would have affected the family. I can't imagine it would be easy when my great-grandmother had a son-in-law fighting with the Division of the North, while her brother was serving in the Constitutionalist Army.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
That's insane.
So, this is the kind of stuff that, like, you know, we've talked about the stuff that makes us love doing the show. This is one of those times where I go like, man, like, it's one thing for Jen here to do her family lineage research and then find out this information and go, oh, that's crazy. I had family members that fought on both sides of the Mexican Revolution. But hopefully, through what we did, she was able to kind of go like, it's not even just that simple. Like, understanding how the battles worked, how these armies formed, why they formed, why different
methods
people,
of recruitment,
right, in one family decided, I'm going to fight with Pancho Villa and the rebels, essentially, or I'm going to stand with the Mexican government and fight for the Constitutionalistas. It's a lot more complicated than that. It reminds me a lot of, like, honestly, American Civil War, where
the brother versus brother scenario,
brother versus brother, where it was like, if you were on one side of the line kind of a thing, or if you aligned with certain ideals, like there were many instances where people from the South said, no, fuck that, I'm going to go fight for the North. And then people in the North that said, fuck that, I'm fighting for the South, and left and switched. So like, that's essentially what happened with Jen's family here.
Absolutely incredible.
Unbelievably cool. And then she also wrote as a PS, learning when the war got to Guadalajara is awesome. I'm missing some important male family members, my great-grandma's dad, Ambrosio Amuesca, and my grandfather's mysterious father, Manuel Padilla. Now I know what time period to look for both of them. So,
whoa,
yeah,
that's kind of cool that we added a bit of context for her to do her research.
Yeah, which again just made me super, super happy. So yeah, we ended up going back and forth a little bit, just sort of saying thank you. This is amazing to hear, all that kind of stuff. And again, I asked if this was okay to post. And then one other thing that she responded with too, about a month or so later, she said, I just learned some new interesting information from my dad. It's really shed some new light on my grandfather's missing father, Manuel Padilla. Apparently, he was a wealthy landowner and was ordered to be executed by the Revolutionary Army. So he and his father fled to the mountains. This explains why my grandfather remembered him. He was born in 1906 Guadalajara as part of his childhood, and also why my grandfather and great-grandmother were able to afford beautiful photography in 1920. If that is the case, I'm hoping I might find more information about him and or his family in old land/property records or newspapers. Wish me luck. Obviously, Jen, wishing you the best of luck there, and if you find it, please send it our way.
Yes.
But if we remember, that was a huge part of Pancho Villa's kind of MO, was that he would
was
go,
finding the hacienda owners and hunting them down.
Well, and he would kill them and then live on the haciendas, but very specifically ones that aligned with the Constitutionalist armies. So in this case, this guy, Manuel Padilla, was a hacienda owner who, by default, had to have aligned. Was directly in the
line of fire. Yeah.
He had to have aligned with the Constitutionalist army, which is why Pancho Villa targeted him, and then they had to flee to the mountains, which to me is kind of ironic in that for the earlier part of Pancho Villa's life, he lived in the mountains fleeing jailers who were trying to kill him.
Weird.
Isn't that amazing?
That is so cool. What a fantastic connection.
Yeah.
That does remind me of another email that we got regarding the Mary Shelley series. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick.
Sure.
So this one comes from another listener, Ava Rose Chapman. Ava mentioned that she started listening to the Mary Shelley series while she was doing some family history research and found that she is related to none other than John Polidori, who was Lord Byron's physician. And, as you know from the Mary Shelley series, John Polidori was present for the birth of Frankenstein and helped write the earliest Dracula or the earliest vampire novel. He imagined Lord Byron as a vampire.
Really?
So, yeah, we have another listener who had a direct connection to the time while they were staying at Villa Diodati, which is the villa where Frankenstein and all of those other things were written. Because if you remember, during that year, there was this crazy frost thing that happened as a result of a volcano exploding. So they were supposed to go out and have fun, and they ended up getting snowed in. And during that time, they wrote Frankenstein, they wrote early drafts for Dracula, and Lord Byron wrote some of his most famous stuff with his friend John Polidori, who was the ancestor of our listener here, Ava.
That is really, really cool. Well,
so kind of interesting.
Everybody, we love this stuff, as you can hear. So if anybody's listening and you start to discover family connections to anybody that we've covered in any one of our series, let us know. Share pictures, share documentation. This is the stuff that makes my little nerd heart beat faster. I don't know. I love the fact that the more that I learn about these people, and I think that's the point of why we do the show here, is that it's one thing to learn about historic events, but when you learn about people, you actually have a better context for the historical events. You have something that you can personally connect with and identify with, right?
Yeah.
And I think when we get these stories back, it hits even harder for me that it's like, oh yeah, we talked about Pancho Villa, and even in my mind, I was like, there's Pancho Villa and there's these important players that were part of his little gang, and then the constitutionalist armies, and then he had a big army underneath him. And then we get stories like this that are like, hey, also, I had family that fought on both sides. One of whom was a hacienda owner that Pancho targeted specifically, and they had to flee. Like,
incredible.
There's a lot of stories here that we don't even get to talk about on these I hate to say little people, but not necessarily big names of history, but there's so many little stories about, who these people affected as well. Same thing with Mary Shelley. And I would also imagine that the physician being there had to have had something to do with Mary Shelley being like, oh, he knows about the human body, and maybe that's I don't know.
Well, interestingly enough,
cool.
We actually do have a poem written during the time by Ava's ancestor. She says, P.S. After learning I am related to John Polidori, I read his diary, and there are 2 quotes I thought you guys might find entertaining. Quote, Percy Shelley, the author of Queen Mab, came, bashful, shy, consumptive, 26, separated from his wife, keeps the 2 daughters of Godwin who practice his theories. Now, practice his theories meaning polyamory, because if you remember, William Godwin was polyamorous. So basically she was like, Percy Shelley, the author of Queen Mab, came, and he was a total wreck, right? His wife was separated, everybody was sleeping around, that sort of thing. And then Polidori continues, quote, bad temper on my side, went into the boat, rowed across the bad temper on my side, went into the boat, rowed across the Diodati. Lord Byron met Mary, her sister, and Percy Shelley. I got into the boat into the middle of Leman Lake, and there lay my strength, letting the boat go its way. And Ava continues saying, it seems 19th century dramatics were high in this group. Which they definitely were, if you remember how much of a crybaby Percy Shelley was.
Yes. That's really funny.
So cool, right? Like, as she's looking through this man's diary, she's finding quotes from the time where she was hanging out with Mary Shelley and Lord Byron.
That's really cool, dude.
Absolutely astonishing.
Super cool. So yeah,
I
again,
do have...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, what's up?
I was going to say, I do have one minor correction from a much earlier season, and it's barely even noticeable. But during our season on Nikola Tesla, we mentioned very regularly that Nikola Tesla used 18 napkins during his meals as part of sort of his OCD ritual for like cleaning everything.
Yeah.
And this quote came to me from an author. Lisa J. Aldrich. And I think there was a misattributing of this quote, because the quote originally comes from John O'Neill's book, and John O'Neill actually says 24, not 18. It's an honest mistake, because Tesla loved things that were divisible by 3. Both are divisible by 3. But he used 24 napkins, not 18.
Glad you cleared that up, because it had been bothering me for a long time.
Someone would have come after me for that.
All right, cool. Well, I think we did it, everybody. I think we have enough facts and information for today. And I think we're probably mostly on time. Might have gone 10 minutes over or something like that in terms of our normal hour-long office hours episode, but I think y'all are okay. So, again, thanks everybody so much for listening. Akiva, who are we doing next again?
Frida Kahlo.
We're doing Frida, everybody. Which, we talked about at the very end of the last Mark Twain episode, our kind of thoughts about it or whatever. To reiterate, I'm looking forward to it, especially because I know very little about Frida Kahlo. Basically nothing. So...
Same here. Yeah, it's been amazing.
I'm very fascinated to understand who this person was. I am personally still deciding on who I'm going to do for my next series. We've talked about some options that I have, but I haven't decided yet. But I'll probably start next weekend. I'll make a decision and then start working on it. But anyway... Nice. So yeah, that's going to be in 2 weeks, everybody. Frida's coming out, and then a couple weeks after that is like a bonus episode on a Tuesday. We got that interview with Max Miller, in addition to being a little part of one of his videos that he's releasing, and then hopefully we'll be able to be in some more moving forward. But everybody, thanks so much for listening. Do remember, like always, ignorance is not stupidity. It is the absence of knowledge. And I do hope you all learned something, at least a little something, today.
See ya.
You've been listening to The Biographers. For more information, please visit thebiographerspodcast.com.